The work session. Tom Baylor has some ideas.
No, I don't. No.
So we kind of left off just everyone had their turn to ask questions, state what they thought about this draft budget. So I'm just going to open it up to council on the phone first. Anybody have anything that they left out for the other work session or comment on any of the other revenue ideas or just ideas to change the budget to get it balanced?
Like-
Yeah, I would like to see, sorry, this is Kenny, can I go?
All right, go ahead. Yep.
Okay. I would like to see maybe a new 10-year average on our fish tax. I don't know if that information's available, but
It is.
you know, when we looked at it during the 2016 strategic planning sessions, it was 1.1 million was the 10-year average, but that was a few years ago, and since then we've had 3 years that were above that, and so I'm just curious what the new 10-year average would look like. So we can maybe be more informed with setting that line item. And then I would like to maybe see us, you know, like we talked about earlier, is evaluate our staffing needs. It's, you know, $500,000 hole in our budget that this new CBA is contributing to, and I think that that's definitely something we need to evaluate in light of the negotiation that took place. Is you know, it's a pretty large increase in our staffing costs, so we might need to look at reducing the staffing level where we can.
I'm just going to make one comment, is that this city government, most governments are people driven. And so I think Jeff Gard mentioned, you know, it's kind of one of those things where you need to look at, we can look more at this, but I think given how lean we seem to be at this moment in time and the kind of cuts that the city has endured over the last number of years, it will be a difficult thing to do short term. Let's just put it that way. And I just want to reiterate, the services we provide are all about people and the people who do the work. So we would need to look at wholesale cuts to perhaps departments or the types of work that get done. And those are the difficult conversations we can certainly have.
All right, anybody else on the phone before I move to the room?
Yeah, this is Dave Gleason. I would just say that I'm looking at our options on page 4 there, and there's definitely room in there for us to fix this. So we just have to agree on which ones we like. We definitely have options to get this down to get our 800 and whatever thousand, that 842,000 down to 0. So I think we need to just pick some.
Well, I know one that I would like to pick, but it's not going to be a popular opinion. But I would like to see that, yeah, I think what we budgeted to give the hospital last year is less than what's in this budget, and I would like to see that increase go away.
All right, Allison, do you want anything before move to the room?
Yeah, I didn't quite catch that. Was Joan suggesting we lower it from 900,000 back to 600?
Yeah, I think that's the number it was last year. I'm looking for it right now on my.
Yeah.
It was roughly 600 to start with before we started adding more for PERS. Yeah, I would agree with that. I don't believe we should give anybody what they ask for without having some kind of proof that they're trying to do something to cut costs. I know you might ask the manager if they're cutting and to tell you they've cut all they can, but I don't believe that anybody's shown me an analysis of all the different positions. I also, still not in favor of the raw fish or the forest receipts being in there. If we're gonna do that, then we might as well, make sales tax 3.8 million and make raw fish tax 1.7 million and balance the budget that way. If we're gonna be making up money to balance the budget, then let's make up money. But I don't believe we should be going there.
All right, Councilman Guard and then Baylor.
Okay, quick question. Forest Service receipts, we're looking at what, 580?
580 plus Forest Service receipts for roads is 15,000, and the school is 580, forest receipts for the school. And again, what's in the budget is based on the historical, recent history. I don't know. I have no knowledge. I'm ignorant about that particular line, but the budget is based on a prior history. In 2016, I guess the number we got was 652,000. 18 actual was 579,000. And I'm not sure where we are for this year because I don't know. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I can certainly let you know. But if that's a number that is really either volatile or insecure, I can get that information post haste and then pull it out of the budget.
Well, the only reason I got that is I wanted to add up where we were here. So we're looking about 1.4 million we're short if we want to put it all in there. So to come up with 1.4, and we can certainly just start whacking off numbers out of the air for like taking away from the hospital and doing that. But that's kind of what got us going to where we ended up with the PERS stuff. So if we want to end up back in a PERS hole again by not having enough money to pay PERS, we can take that avenue, but I don't think it's very responsible. So let me get back to the sheet here. Raw fish tax. If we start stacking on raw fish tax, or I believe if we start stacking on raw fish tax too rapidly here, we're going to see less fish go through town. If no other way than somebody looks and says, oh, I'm making 2% less or 1% less or whatever than my buddy is that's fishing for somebody that's not a plant that's not in Cordova. We may see people jumping ship and lose volume in Cordova, which is going to hurt. So I don't know that I'm in favor of boosting that up any at all yet. Property tax, we've been kind of committed since I got on council that we were going to hold the line at raising the same consistent dollar amount from property tax. So I have a hard time doing that. Sales tax is a little bit more broad-based tax. It's also one that we're going to see dollars brought in from seasonal residents of Cordova that we have to supply services for that aren't sitting here paying property tax and all that. So if we're going to see boosts there, or boosts, I'd be more in favor of a sales tax than a property tax. The seasonal rate sales tax for splits, that did not go over very well last time. I don't know that I want to try to do that one again. So I'd be more in favor of just a flat change. Wharfage we just did last year, and the motor fuel tax went down in flames when we did that. So that's kind of my logic on where we're going to come up with $1.4 million.
What was your logic?
That we're not?
I know, what was it?
Well, I mean, we're looking at things like sin taxes, the public safety fee, a raise in sales tax, and then probably permanent fund withdrawals. If we want to do this whole thing, I mean,
I had a quick question just for clarification, and I'm not sure who was talking, but when you were talking about the raw fish tax, were you talking about increasing the number that's in the budget so it's more in line with what we actually receive, or were you talking about increasing the tax itself?
I wasn't very clear on that, so thank you for asking that. So the part that I probably addressed most was the local raw fish tax. It's all still an add-on, and I don't think it would behoove us to jump that up too fast, too soon, because I'm afraid we'd have guys jumping ship for,
We just put in the 0.5% this year, so he's saying if we go up another 0.5% already this quickly,
Yep, got it.
and the other half playing Ouija board with what our raw fish tax is that we get back from the state doing a 10-year rolling average. We're now seeing more temperature anomalies in the North Pacific and Prince William Sound than we ever have before. It may not be a long run for these changes, but it could be long-term effects. And if we end up on a receding instead of ascending curve and start trying to do 10-year averages on that, we're always going to be in the hole every year. So I don't know that I'm in favor of changing our raw fish tax number a lot for revenue sharing from the state dollars.
that may change significantly in 2019 due to the fact that there was no floaters in the Prince William Sound. So there could be a significant increase for.
Whoever's talking, I can't hear them on the phone there.
It was the audience.
That was a Frohnoffel speaking there, quietly and softly.
Councilman Baylor.
All right, well, in the earlier meeting, I kind of threw out some suggestions where we can look for some, cuts and some income, but I guess I'm looking at page 4 there, revenue options, and if the council, if we could start with the first one, you could take the lead on this. Which ones are absolutely off the table, I guess is what I'm trying to get at. And it sounds like the 0.5% raw fish tax is off the table. If we could eliminate off this page what none of us want to see, and then it leaves us down to some maybes, at least staff and the rest of us kind of got an idea of what we're working with.
Do you want to
Why do you-
start?
No, I don't, because,
We vote on these things?
well, I think we just have we just need a,
Number one, and ask
we just,
every single person.
you can ask for concurrence and ask, because I'm not a commercial fisherman, I understand the whole process, but I guess I would like to hear from everybody, like, you can just start with 0.5% raw fish tax, is that off the table? And what is everybody's opinion?
We can do that. Did you want to add anything else before we go through them?
No, I think just,
All right.
let's get with that.
All right, so we'll just go through the options 1 through 9. 0.5% local raw fish tax. That would raise $190,000. We want to just go around and say what you guys think about it. Yes, no. Completely off the table. Start on the phone.
Well, I'll go first. This is Dave Gleason suggested that. So I don't think it's that bad of an idea, but we wouldn't collect any money from that until next year. So I think we should probably hack that off if we're looking for instant money. And one thing that's not on this page is the state debt reimbursement and taking that out of the permanent fund. That's a biggie that should be on here.
All right, I'll write that as number 10.
Just permanent fund.
Yeah. Jones, Allison, do either one of you guys have a comment about doing a raw fish tax additional percentage?
I would not be in support of that. I would not be in favor of that.
Okay, Allison?
Yeah, I wouldn't be in favor of that unless it was to offset property taxes.
Guard?
I don't mind paying it, I just have problems with what the repercussions may be, so I don't think it's in our better interest to do it, so I'd say no.
Baylor?
I'll follow the fisherman's lead on this and say no.
Okay. Making headway. Oh, Melina, did you speak to it?
So that,
Well, I was thinking about it. You know, I don't think it's a bad way to go, but I don't feel comfortable, and I kind of just overall, a lot of them is doing a new tax to fix this budget. I think that we need to fix it with what we have right now, raise stuff, and then take a long look at all of our taxes and do a complete assessment over how we're taxing and generally in a whole and as a whole and all of our fees, because I do think a raw fish tax, that is our industry. So I think that we can tax a little bit more there, but I think we have to look at it a little bit longer than just trying to balance a budget really quickly.
Yeah, but if we're looking at taxing that industry, and that, I got no issues with that, but there are other things we could do that would be dollars that would come more immediately for helping us with this next year's budget.
Yeah.
Like David was talking about, but we could be looking at wet lockbox taxes, you know, whatever, something that is,
So it sounds like overall, some of us think that maybe down the line, some of us no. So I think we could probably cross that one off of balancing this next budget. Number 2 is the public safety. Start in the room this time, Baylor.
well, if the explanation was right that this would hit everybody, including Forest Service and state housing and that sort of thing, then I'm definitely for it.
Guard?
yes, I'm in favor of it.
I don't know how I feel about it. I would have a little more questions. I think even just $10 a month can hurt some family year-round communities in this, or year-round residents in this, but I would be curious on how it would affect the large processors that bring in a huge population workforce that I think puts a burden on our public safety costs. So I guess I would be interested in looking in more information on that.
Well, there's,
See if there's a way to scale it, you mean?
Scale it, or what
don't
the
know.
utilities would be scaled on places that have more residents staying there seasonally. I don't know, but so I'd have more questions about that. And then Jones, how do you feel about the public safety fee?
I think you and I are kind of on the same page with this. I'd need more information, but it's not off the table at this moment.
Allison?
Yeah, I think it's worth considering.
And Gleason?
Yeah, I'm in favor of that.
All right, so sounds like a lot of people are interested in that one or just in favor of it. So number 3, the surtax, 6% for alcohol, tobacco, and marijuana. Jones?
I would be in favor of this as long as it includes all 3 of them.
Allison?
I'm sorry, I missed which option this was for.
It's for alcohol, tobacco, marijuana.
Oh, yeah,
6%.
yeah. I'm in favor of that.
Gleason?
Yes.
Baylor?
Yeah, and just a quick comment, because I read this in the paper about a month ago, and it totally makes sense to me. So the police responded to a complaint that man threw a beer at other man. So we've talked time and time again, but the alcohol and these things cost us a lot of money down at the hospital, and I had to laugh. So we have to send somebody out because a beer was thrown out, not a rock, a beer. So yes, I'm for taxing it.
bottle or can.
Guard?
Yeah, I don't know.
I can get behind that one.
I'm not going to comment on this one.
Can you say
'cause-
conflict?
I mean, there's a conflict for me for this one. I guess technically not right now, but I would be speaking on this item, so.
And I'll tell you, the estimate is very rough. So we could try to do a little more work to get that number a little
Is that
better.
right?
These were just literally pulled out of our,
We used other communities that are collecting it
Yeah, we
as
can get
some
more information.
guidelines, but we couldn't get that.
Well, it's not off the table. How's that?
sounds great.
Yeah, that sounds like a good one to work with.
All right, mill rate. Baylor.
That's a toughie. Only if it's absolutely necessary, but I would say at this time I would pull it off the table.
Guard.
I'm not in favor of it.
That was one of my ideas. I was thinking more of a half a mil, not a full mil. So I would be interested, I guess, in a combination of that being part of it. Jones.
I would not be in favor of increasing the mill rate.
Allison.
Only if it's for paying back the bond debt that the state is not paying, that they should be.
Gleason.
Yeah, I'm not in favor of that.
Okay, so it looks like most are not in favor.
And I should have worded that differently, like you were talking about possibly wanting to add 100,000 to the property tax revenue number. We would not know what that millage equivalent would be until May when we have, so.
Right.
But either way, since it didn't get a lot of support, I guess it's.
So we'll just talk about the next one as just a sales tax. Oh, I guess we can say 1% increase.
Sales tax increase, because the
Yeah.
numbers we're looking at needing to generate, using the
So-
6% or 1% or whatever,
Yeah.
it's all up for.
So right now we're talking about 1% increase.
Number
Baylor, number 5.
Yeah, that's an interesting one. I could probably get behind it, and part of my thinking is I know a lot of shopping's done on Amazon now, so it's already taken away from their local retailers. On the flip side of that, we should be getting more sales because myself and others aren't driving their vehicle up to Anchorage on the ferry. So I would be willing to discuss the 1% sales tax. I guess let's put it that way.
Guard.
If we had to levy a tax increase, sales tax would probably be my choice to do it on, because it is spread most broadly throughout the community. Not that any of us like any kind of tax increase, but I could do that one if I had to.
Yeah, I'm thinking that this budget cycle for me is kind of a short term, have to balance it. So the 1% increase is kind of where I see would be the easiest, fastest, biggest chunk to take out of there. I don't like any of these taxes. I'm sure none of us do. So I'd be willing to look at that one too. Gleason.
Yeah, maybe last resort if we can't get it without doing that. That's a good enough answer.
Yep. Allison.
Not much in favor of doing anything with the sales tax here.
Jones.
This, as far as sales tax, a 1% increase is the only one that I could see myself ever supporting. So I wouldn't want to take it off the table yet. I'm not too in favor of it. I think there's other things we can do, but definitely leave it on the list.
Okay. And then for 6 and 7, I'm just going to kind of combine those and see who's in favor of a seasonal sales tax. So the manager can just take that direction and figure out the split for what we're at.
Mark says yes, his head's going up and down.
All right, Baylor, how do you feel about a seasonal split tax?
I guess I don't know. I don't have an opinion at this point.
No opinion, Guard?
I like the idea of being able to get the higher value when we have more of the seasonal folks here in town, but I don't, after what we went through last time, I don't know that how feasible it is for our merchants to deal with something split with the archaic bookkeeping systems that some of us with different colored hair use.
A lot of other cities do it. It's a lot of places.
Yeah,
No, I
my,
understand. But we went through this whole thing last time when we,
What we heard from,
yeah, that was really the only one when we sat down and were doing the budget with Mark's favorite one, the motor fuel tax, and the seasonal sales tax, and that. And then we're doing the exempt cap on sales tax.
yeah.
so you're not in favor of a seasonal tax?
No, that went down. We had a huge public display against, because that was the first one we went to do when we did the budget. So that's how we ended up with such a large jump to the motor fuel tax, because we took it up and huge public outcry came out at the meeting, you know, the seats had all been bare. And then they filmed up on that night when we did it, and it all got voted down. So then we ended up having to shove dollars off to elsewhere.
All right,
So-
Baylor, you had a
Yeah, I guess,
comment on this one
yeah,
again?
as he's talked about that, and we do have some rental properties, and I think I would prefer to just say you're gonna be paying 7% sales tax versus, are you gonna be paying 6% this month and 8% that month? I think one,
You could include it in their price.
Yeah.
yeah, I know what you could do, but I guess I'm leaning towards just the 7%, not the split, but I'm open.
I'm open to a seasonal sales tax. I think that would be capturing where we can, but kind of just on the sales increase in general, so I'm willing to look at both. Gleason? Seasonal
Yeah,
sales tax?
I probably wouldn't be in favor of either one of those. Yeah, I'll just leave it at that.
Okay. Allison?
Not for a seasonal at all. Not very keen on a 1% either across the board, but definitely not a seasonal.
Okay, Jones?
Well, you know, originally, I think a couple of years ago, I was the one that suggested this. And after talking to a lot of community members and a lot of businesses, basically it sounded like everybody preferred just to do a 1% instead of a split, but maybe not take it off the table. So you can just hear from community members and then make a decision.
The clerk?
Just so you guys know, like on 3.3 million, we get 550,000 first quarter, 550 fourth quarter, and 1.1 million averages these are for second and third. So if second and third quarter are 8 or 7, that's the idea of really getting it when
Oh, I
you're
understand.
getting it. All right. I mean, you mentioned how there's people in town, but it's also the volume,
No, I understand.
which is related, obviously.
Yeah, so the second and third quarter are double the amount as the other two quarters. All right, so it sounded like maybe two of us were interested in it, so
We could do it.
That's
I'd be happy
probably-
to do it, but I don't see it going after.
I think it's still on the
uproar
table.
we had.
still on the table. Okay. Sales
Can,
tax in general is on the table, seasonal or just the 1%.
and would you guys want to do by election on any of those?
I think
Or
we'll have
would
to
you go with code change?
I think we'll have to talk about that whenever we do.
Okay.
So number 8, Warford's fuel, I guess we'll just say any cents per gallon. Let's just talk about how anyone's in favor of this. Baylor?
I'll wait to hear what everybody else has to say.
Guard?
I think it's one that we just did. I am not in favor, and I know this surprises Mark coming out of my mouth after the last time around, but something we just put a new fee or tax or whatever you want to call on it to turn around and raise it this soon, I don't think's healthy. So,
Yeah, I have the same opinion about that one as I did as the raw fish tax. We just did that one. So not forever off the table for me, but for this short term, it's I'm not interested. Gleason?
Well, so out of the two of those, out of the motor fuel tax and the wharfage, I prefer the wharfage because it gets every gallon versus the fuel tax charging 48% of us. That's not really an answer, and Mark's probably getting red in the face about now, but I would be a yes on the wharfage and a no on the motor fuel tax.
Okay, Allison?
Yeah, I think I would be right along those lines too. I'd be yes on the wharfage because it gets everybody, and no on the fuel tax. But I think it needs to be tied to something specific so that people can know that that's for the hospital or that's for, whatever it's for, or whatever we decide that that's going to replace general funds for. We need to be clear about that and concise and advertise that so that people don't vote against it again.
That brought up something, but Jones?
Yeah, I'm not in favor of a motor vehicle fuel tax. The wharfage, possibly, but not really right now. Kind of where I'm at on that.
All right, and then Allison brought something up that I kind of wanted to say about some of these two that I wasn't exactly keen on. But if we did tie one to, say, the hospital, I'd be very in favor of introducing pretty much any of these to something like the hospital, because I think that that's a big burden on the budget, and the idea would be maybe that tax go away after maybe we are able to get rid of the hospital or take that burden off. So
And I
if we have a
think,
temporary tax, I think that would be.
I think we have an opportunity too, because everyone knows statewide that the governor cut the bond reimbursement. And the conversation that has been happening statewide is it's going to impact everyone on the local levels. So we have an opening, we have an opportunity to capitalize, if you will. That's the wrong word. I don't. To use that argument to allow us to take care of some of these problems. And one of them is that $400 and something thousand bond reimbursement that right now you're talking about pulling out a permanent fund, but it could be used. It's the optics. It's what do we want to promote that we're going to use these revenues for? And I think you're right on with, is it the hospital? Is it the schools? Both of whom are taking a draw on the city resources, and tax revenue is going to be needed. So I think how we dedicate these resources is going to be key.
So does that give you a good idea on how council feels about these revenue?
Yeah, and we'll get we'll tighten up the numbers as best as we can by the next work session.
But we haven't talked about the
Permanent fund.
the school bond debt reimbursement or the raw fish tax.
All right, I'll put the raw fish tax on
we
that
get
one.
from the state.
Yeah.
Can I throw in a couple others too, maybe that we might want to think about?
Sure. Just quick
The
ones.
wet lockbox tax,
Wet lock?
we've talked about a couple times.
Yep.
And I know when you look at nationwide, statewide, or any of that, our taxes for our bed taxes and our auto rental taxes,
Bed tax?
bed tax and auto rental tax are really low compared to any place else you travel.
All right, so let's go around the room on the permanent fund in favor of drawing out funds for the school reimbursement. Allison? We'll come back. Gleason, how do you feel about the permanent fund?
Yeah, I'm in favor of that because of the forestry receipts that were put in there by prior council and for that purpose. So, yes.
Jones?
Not too keen on it. We've taken like $4 million out of there just since I've been on council. So not too stoked about it, but maybe don't take it off the table quite yet.
Allison? I think he brought it up last time, so he might be, but I don't know if he's on. Baylor?
Yeah, I would consider it, and part of my thinking now is with the market conditions that we have, we really don't know what's going to happen in the next few months or 6 months, but if you're going to draw it down to pay something off, you draw it down when she's on the highs. If we could be, that level could drop $500,000 or $1 million in 8 months if the market goes sideways or Elizabeth gets elected or something like that. So there's those things to be considering. And in all seriousness, sometimes it's pays to pull back out of the market. And in a sense, if we did this, we would be doing that. We'd be pulling back on the high note. And but so anyway, I would consider it.
Guard?
I'm adverse to pull anything out of the permanent fund at the rate we've been pulling it out here, but I don't see where we really have any chance. I see not to. I mean, I see we're looking at about, for what we've talked about here that we're looking at, we've got about half of our 1.4 covered here at the levels that we're talking out here. So I don't know that we have any choice, so I wouldn't take it off the table.
And then for me, I'm only really in favor of it if we take timber receipts out of the budget. It's kind of either or for me. If we leave timber receipts in there, then we pull out of the permanent fund later. But I don't want to put the timber receipts in there and money out of the permanent fund, because I think we could get into a spot where we're end up pulling out double the amount than we're planning to. So,
Okay.
I don't know how the logistics of that would work also, because would you literally pull out permanent fund money every time you make a bond payment? I don't think so.
Well,
I think
we'll
you-
figure it out.
Yeah.
But the point is, I think we're open to doing it.
I think we probably have to vote on it and it'd be put into our budget as a revenue
Yeah.
item. So another one we added was the fish tax, just the amount that we put into our budget, not an additional tax, changing the line item, the amount that we say we're going to get. So Jones?
I could be in favor of raising it a little bit, but I don't want to go too far for the reasons brought up earlier with the temperature anomalies. It's definitely a concern next year and the year after as far as the seining. Fishery and low tower counts on the copper, even though we've over-escaped the sonar. It's not good. Wild stocks died off pretty much statewide, and we're going to be looking at a couple bad fishing years coming up over the next 2 to 5 years. And so I can see raising it for this year to maybe help take the pressure off of our current situation, but it's definitely something we're not going to want to keep doing.
So
Alice?
a one-time thing?
Yeah, because we did do pretty good this year.
Okay.
And so it's definitely going to be higher next fall when we get the money from this year, but probably not for the years after that.
Allison?
Yeah, I'd be in favor of the same thing that Joan says there, a little bit, but not a whole lot. So.
All right, and what was your opinion on pulling from the permanent fund for the school debt reimbursement?
I think that bond debt reimbursement has to be paid from the permanent fund or raising property tax, raising the mill rate. That's
Right.
my thought. So I would prefer to take it out of the permanent fund. I'm kind of with you on that. If I certainly don't want to pull from the permanent fund and include the what's it called? The forest.
Timber receipts, yeah, or
Yeah.
receipt, yeah. Okay, did I go in the room yet? Baylor?
Yeah, concur with what Kenny and Dave said.
Garden?
I really don't want to see a big change or much of any change. I think we've already done one small raise in what we're doing for raw fish tax expectations, and I'm not in favor of doing any more change in there because I don't think it's long-term physically responsible.
Right, and then for me, I'd like to see the 10-year average new one that we kind of discussed before, and I guess in my kind of at the beginning of the work session before the regular meeting, I kind of said 100,000 change in so I wouldn't want to see anything more than that. But having some numbers, I'd be open to looking at that.
Okay.
You skipped me.
Oh, Gleason, sorry.
I think you did
Go
that
ahead.
on purpose.
No, it's hard to remember. I can't see
Right,
guys'
so
faces.
I'm looking at what we got from last season. And this season was better than last season. So in my mind, there's no way it's going to be lower than 1.23. But we all have to agree on what amount. So we'll agree on an amount to raise that. And I don't know what that amount will be. For me, I'd be comfortable with like 1.3 million, but I can tell from everybody else it's probably not going to be that high. And we will receive whatever money it is in October, and hopefully we'll be able to put that to use at that point. So I just hate to leave a big chunk of money out in space, but Kenny's right. You don't want to go too high. So whatever number we come up with, but it definitely is going to be more than 1,050,000.
All right, the other one was wet lock box tax fee that Guard brought up.
Can somebody explain how that works? I guess I wasn't.
I think it's for
involved with-
flying out, or it's a fee on each box of salmon.
As it's checked into the airport, or is it sold at the
I think
store?
sometimes it can be
That's wetlock's going out of Cordova.
out of Cordova, so it probably is for the processors too. I don't really
Okay,
know.
I'm sorry. So we're not talking Joe Blow fisherman that comes and takes 5.
With them too,
No, that-
yeah.
So how do you, so explain to me, how do we collect that? How do you charge that?
I don't know.
I
Other
guess I'm in
communities
for of it. I
do.
just don't know how it
Not sure.
works.
We talked
The
about
way it's
this.
done in Gustavus and Sitka and 3 or 4 other communities in Alaska is it's a charge at the airport, people flying out with fish boxes, and it's primarily targeted on sport fishermen. That would be what I would be in favor of. If we're talking about fish boxes that are leaving on the freighters, I'm not sure if I would be as in favor of that, because we already get raw fish tax on the commercial side. And so the commercial users are already paying pretty substantially for our budget. I mean, we're just talking about raising it from 1.05 to 1.3. So commercial users are already paying that much, plus the other 0.5% to pay for the new harbor, plus, a lot of the sales tax come from the commercial fleet and the fuel sales and everything else that they use. So I would like to see us go after the sports sector a little bit more. They're a growing user group, exponentially growing, and I think that we're leaving something on the table by not having a fish box tax like other communities have. And, it's like $5 a box or $10 a box is what other communities have chosen to charge. And I think we looked at it in the past, and it's not much, but like Councilmember Allison and Councilmember Baylor said, get enough peanuts to feed the elephant.
Yeah, it's something other communities do, and I think it would be whoever is shipping it out is the one that collects it. That's the business. So like Alaska Airlines Cargo, Ace Cargo
So,
would be collecting it just like they collect sales tax or anything else, any other taxes.
so when you leave, you have to declare, they ask you if it's frozen, you have to declare if there's fish, you actually have to write down the species, which is, I'm getting it. So then I mean, they can't say it's not fish. And if it's a cooler, it doesn't have to be quote unquote a fish box. So once they declare they're shipping fish out, then it's a $10 charge or $5 charge. Is that the way that would work?
I think right now we're just kind of getting a census, I think, of
Right.
which ones we would be open to. And I think the city would probably have to do some more work on what that would entail.
I'd be in favor.
If it's just the sport
Okay.
guys, you're looking at like 20 grand.
Yeah.
It's only worth it if you do the sport.
Guard? You brought it forward,
Yeah,
so I'm going to assume, yeah.
Well, I brought it forward because it's something we talked about a number of smaller taxes before. And if it's just the sport guys we're going after, I don't know that it really behooves us to spend the time to do it. And again, we don't want to make it so onerous or put too much burden on one sector of the economy, the fish plants or any of that. But if we could figure out a way to whittle off a big enough chunk of a peanut that's not really gonna put a lot of hurt out there on anybody, I'd be interested in looking at it as long as we spread it out and didn't just do it on the sports. I mean, if you look at what we had for sports in this year without having a ferry here, it wasn't too thick out there this year.
Gleason?
Yeah, I'm definitely in favor of hammering the sport fishermen any way we can.
Allison?
Sure, why not? Sounds good.
Jones?
Yeah, I'd definitely be in favor of looking at this. And, you know, I wouldn't be opposed to looking at doing all fish boxes at the airport. I'm trying to think of it now. And, you know, there are some direct marketers like myself, and some of them may or may not remit sales tax on sales that go out. And so this would be a way to collect on that a little bit.
Yeah, and I don't mind looking into it. I just worry about doing a new tax to come up with. I think it's a little late to do that personally, so I don't mind looking into it. But
Could be if it's a fee and it's on the fee resolution, it's
yeah,
not that hard to put in, I would say. I don't know the logistics of how it would work.
I just don't know if it's going to take us out of our budget one. But if we want to look into a bunch of little ones, we can look into that too. Last one that was talked about was the surtax, which is like the bed tax and car rental tax that we have. Right now it's 100% of whatever sales tax is. So go around the room to looking at increasing that, which I guess to note, if we raise sales tax, it automatically raises it as it's written right now. Baylor?
No, all I can say is when I travel, I rent a car, I get a motel, I just sign the agreement. I don't even notice how much tax I'm paying. So I don't know if it's not going to stop me from going someplace. So
Guard?
Yeah, when I travel around, you know, you look at 18, 20, 30, 40% taxes on auto rentals when you're out. High teens to 20s on bed taxes, a lot of places. I think it would behoove us to catch up with the times. I don't think we're gonna kill off any business here.
All right, and then my opinion on it is I think that we should separate it from sales tax. I've never really liked that it's 100% of whatever sales tax is, and I would not be in favor of increasing it. I spent a lot of times at the front desk at the Reluctant, and can't tell you how many times I heard 12% tax on top of that. And when I think of communities that have a high bed tax, I think of large communities that you're going to, and they provide transportation, they do a lot of marketing. I think that it would be a burden on the small tourist industry that we have, and a lot of the people coming into Cordova are tax exempt. So the people that we'd be taxing are the few tourists that we have, and I would like to see that industry increasing. But that's my opinion. Jones?
Yeah, I would actually agree with you on this. I think that we already have pretty good amount on the rental car and bed taxes. I think that we should keep it at 100% of the sales tax, though. That way, if we do raise sales tax, it goes up a little bit. But I don't think we want to be in the same realm of Anchorage or Fairbanks or Juneau. You know, they're 18 to 20%, but like you said, they are spending a lot more with their chambers and getting people there. They have large cruise industries and tour industries and other things that attract people, huge conventions, multiple convention centers. It's just a little bit different economy there that brings those people to town. I know that the local B&Bs and the local hotels are already feeling pretty strained with having the ferry gone now, and so I just wouldn't be in favor of this, raising it any more than it already is. Just leave it the same.
Do you know if bed tax and rental car tax can be done as a fee, so you can get the exempt entities?
I believe you can.
You can?
I don't see, I think there's communities that have a bed tax that is a per night bed tax. It's a flat fee. I kind of brought that up, I think the last council meeting is maybe looking into it, but we could go around and say that one is there, but I think that would be a little more work to get into right now. Gleason?
Oh, sorry, he left
Oh.
to go eat, he told me.
Allison?
Starving.
Bed tax percent increase?
Yeah, I think, I'm kind of with you, Melina, on that. I think maybe if we broke it out, it might be more palatable to people. You know, I'm up here in Anchorage too, and we rented a car, and the car is $14 a day, and then there's 5 different fees of $1.20, $2, $3. It adds up to $8 for taxes and fees, which is 60% of what the car rental costs, and it cost me $24 a day to park. So I don't think our fees are exorbitant, but again, I agree with it. They're, the industry is already paying quite a bit, but maybe breaking that out wouldn't be a bad idea, and then we could think about adjusting one or the other. I don't know. I don't travel that much to get an idea, but I think if it was 2 smaller numbers, that might be more palatable than one big number.
Okay, so we went through all of the numbers. Is there any other tax that we want to go around and get the number on or get a feel on? Any suggestions? Going? Okay.
I'd like to apologize because I talked earlier about wanting to keep us out of the rabbit holes of looking for small dollars in places. You were doing it. And I'd like to apologize for just having drug us down that rabbit hole.
Well, I think this was good for the city manager to get our take. Do you have a good idea, or do you have any other questions for us?
I just want to run through what I think I heard. You guys were cool with exploring the $10 a month public safety fee. And we'll research these and come up with some options and kind of give the dollar impact. The surtax for alcohol, tobacco, marijuana, 1% increase in sales tax was, people were willing to look at that. The wharfage on fuel, I heard was something,
Table.
was on the table. The debt reimbursement using the permanent fund, definitely increasing the raw fish tax, although I'm not really clear on a number there, but I'll tell you what, if we get close to a number and I need a plug, I'll come back with a number that I think might be appropriate. The wet box tax is another one. And I think that's what I heard. So we would come back with information on 7 possible options here. And we'll get hammering on this and have these numbers as quickly as possible.
All right, Baylor, and then I had a comment too to make.
Yeah, and I'd just throw out a suggestion, and especially on the sales tax, it'd be nice to reach out to the business community on this.
Yep.
So you've got a handle. I mean, like, basically, and I like your idea about, we're going to raise this to either schools or hospital or whatever, laying that out. But yeah, let's reach out to people and see what they have to say on some of this stuff. It doesn't really work that well in our workshops. We get 3 or 4 people to show up unless we're doing something crazy. It'd be good to get more public input. And I don't know if the chamber could help with that, reach out to their members. So,
I hate to want to add something to our budget because right now we're trying to come up with money to have what we have in our budget. But I would really like to put some money towards looking at all of our taxes, to do
Some kind of a study or something.
a study, get the community involved. I think it's a longer process than what council can do, but look at our impact on taxes, give the chance for community input from taxes, what they're paying, and just really take a good long look at all of our fees and probably hire some outside help for that. I don't think that's something I think we've done it in-house, and right now we have a lot of exemptions, and I think it would be nice to get some outside help looking at our tax burden on the community in general, especially the gross receipts tax. I think that we'd need outside help on that.
Okay, well, I'll come back and I'll see if I can get a approximate cost estimate on that and see how to wrap it in the budget.
Well, I think maybe we should ask council if they're into that.
let's get through this. Something to do next year for sure. But it also,
Well, it'd have to be in the budget.
it has to go along with, what's, if you're going to talk to me about what taxes, then you also have to go along with what services I want, because they kind of go hand in
Right.
hand.
Yeah.
So it's a big picture thing, and I agree with you that we should do it.
Well, some of this information as far as what the community wants, we've already got in our
Comprehensive plan.
Comprehensive.
comprehensive plan. I mean, that's,
Well, the big one that you brought up was police, 16 hours of coverage, or what do we want, so.
I think that was one of the add-on options to the comprehensive plan. Leif, do you know that the organization that did the comprehensive plans, there was when they did their proposal, they had add-ons that they could look into more deeply, and tax was one of them. Subcontractors for it. Okay. So we might want to bring that up next time in the budget, whether council all agrees with that or not, but I don't know. Guard?
one thing that we have been pounding hard on as a council for the last year plus is harbor. And right now, we've got bills and stuff flying around DC rapidly, and we have not got our lobbying representation there yet, have we?
No,
That
we
was
got
voted
anything?
down.
it was
don't-
referred.
Referred
don't
to
think-
staff? Or voted down?
I will tell you that I did a little bit of research and about this one, the big grant that is being applied for, the BUILD grant. First decision is being made in November, and I was basically informed that any lobbying, it was too late. If we don't get it this year, which people seem to think we won't, then we would reapply and have a full approach to that in 2020, and a lobbyist might be useful at that time. And I'm still getting up to speed, but I was informed that if it's a organizational grant, say coming from a department, lobbyists will not help. If it's a grant that runs through a political process, if you will, the lobbyists will help. And my understanding is that this grant goes through Department of Transportation, and it goes through a rigorous process that involves metrics and, steps and hoops and jumps that you do, and a lobbyist will not be useful. But I will get more information on that. And but this year it was considered to be moot.
Well, I understand the Bill grant or the Tiger grant, but there are like 4 or 5 pieces of legislation that we could find money out of going around DC right now, and I think one of them just got approved
I saw that with.
within the last week or two. But anyway, if we don't, we can sit here and gnash our teeth and pull our hair out and watch stuff crumble until we gotta condemn it, but we need to be ready to play the game.
Yeah, and I will find out the game. I have a lot of really good contacts, and I think the city does too, in DC, to help advise us without money at this point on the appropriate way to move forward and play the game with lobbyists or not, and then what the right lobbyists are, because some are better, some are used to working in this direction and another in this direction. So I guess we need to figure out how to skin the cat. So Yeah,
All
I'm on
saying
it.
is I don't.
I'm on it. It's not in the budget.
I thought it was.
That's what I
Not?
was,
I think it was in Alan's budget, 45 was in.
Yeah, there's a number in here.
Oh, so it is in?
I'm pretty sure it did not get taken out.
He had a number of 35,000 in there at one point.
Yeah, I'll find
And when
it.
it went to council, that regular meeting, I can't remember if it went revert back to staff or if we voted it down, but
I don't.
Probably
think
looking
we
He
at
had it,
voted down.
yeah, we did.
yeah, we voted on it.
And next,
So could I get some clarification on something that Helen said?
Sure.
So when you said it was considered too late, do you mean that our application for the grant was late? Or
Oh, no. The actual decision is being made in November. So
okay,
the influencers would have to have influenced earlier than now. It's too late. The decision-making process is already so far along that there's nothing that we could do to influence it if that was even an option. That said, if we don't get the grant, we have an opportunity. This is the Bill grant in specifically I'm speaking to. If we don't get the Bill grant, we will get an opportunity to meet with their staff, the granting agency, DOT staff, to figure out deficiencies in the application, make improvements, and then move it forward again for 2020 funding.
okay, thanks for that clarification.
But I had thought as we talked through this, that we never really expected to be in the running for this year's money. I thought we were trying to position ourselves for next year's money.
Well, we paid them and they put it in. It's in. We hope. I mean, it could be. It'll be
I'm
winning the
looking for
lottery.
that number.
So we did refer that to staff on October 2nd.
Okay.
But that was a specific contract with one group. If it's in the budget, we can do it.
I will look
number
for the
of
budget
things.
number too and make sure
I
it's
think it's a
there.
non-departmental.
That's what I'm looking for. I'm lost.
All right, so Helen can look into that further. Is there any other council on the phone? Maybe we can wrap this up. Any other comments about it? Jones, Gleason, Allison?
I think Glayson's gone.
All right.
I know he's gone.
Baylor, anything you want to add to it before we talk about the calendar for the next work session?
no, I'm good, thanks.
Guard?
You speak for me.
So next week, we have a meeting with school board at 6 o'clock. Do we want to have, and it's at the school, do we want to have a work session after that? Does anyone feel like they need to give more direction to Helen before that? Because on the 20th,
Yeah, there it is.
we probably won't have a work session because Helen will be gone. And then
The week after that is Thanksgiving.
the week after that's Thanksgiving, and then we're getting into December.
Yeah,
And
this is the older
if
budget.
any of these are being done
No, I
by
get it.
any means
Okay.
other
Well,
than
that's,
election
take it out.
and the regular election, then timing is fine. But if you were going to choose to do any of these by ordinance instead, we'd be smart to try and get it into place as quickly as possible.
Before the new year.
new year. And the Wharfage one, I think, can be done on a fee schedule, which is a resolution and not overturnable. Woohoo! Mark Fronapfel.
So
goodness.
Helen, how do you feel about having a work session? Do you feel like you need to have another work session next week after the school board, joint school board meeting?
If we can get numbers that would help you guys say yes, 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 I think that would be useful. Yeah.
Okay, so we'll have a work session after our joint meeting with the school board next Wednesday.
Okay. And just so you know, I did look, we have 45,000 in for a federal lobbyist and 50,000 in for a state lobbyist in the 2020 budget. So it's in there. And we'll just have to make sure we're spending it wisely and appropriately, so.
Oh, shoot. Is
I guess
Park-
I personally would rather see the federal one taken out, and if we're going to do one for the harbor, maybe it should come out of the harbor enterprise. That's just my personal opinion. I think that would be better spent going towards looking at our tax structure in general.
Yeah, that's
me.
that's a number we can look at. I will be working, just so you know, another reason to do this work session next week is I should have all the enterprise funds budgets finalized and that would be something else that would feed into this complete budget that you'll be passing in December. So I will have that.
So we're going to have a work session on Wednesday, the 13th, after the school board meeting. And then we're going to have a meeting December 4th, that Wednesday. So we'll probably have a work. When do you plan on?
Yes, a regular meeting on the 20th, but we could have a work session on something else if anybody wants to, and Helen said she could call in, but I don't know how useful you guys think that would be.
Well, I think we've got a lot of work on our plate as staff, and I think once we have some numbers here to help figure out how to plug the holes, that'll help finalize a budget that we could then pull together for. We wouldn't need another work session on the 20th. We would just have a budget to present on the 4th, and then give everyone time for feedback, and then the final approvals on the 18th of December, right?
Would or would not on the 20th?
Would not need
Would
a
not.
work.
Okay, that's what I
Yeah,
thought. And we can
yeah.
talk on the 13th if something.
Yeah, each work session we
Changes,
have, we can
yes.
decide if we want another one.
Yeah.
The next week or later on. Sounds good. Guard?
Ask one question about next week. Did we give ourselves a workshop starting at 6 o'clock next week to give us 2 hours with the school board?
School board, it will be from 6 to 7. And then we can start our 7 o'clock work session here and go as long as we want. We don't have anything
Okay.
after it.
Okay.
Is that,
Sounds good.
I might call it 7:15.
One more, I'll make the motion. Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Whoa.
All those in favor?
9:02.
Aye.